Welcome into the I-80 Boys College Football Show. Chris, it's Georgia-Tennessee week. Kind of feels weird doing this pretty early in the season. Normally, this is a later in the year type game, I feel like, right? Midpoint here. Chris, you are on the Tennessee Volunteers. I want to hear a little bit about them.
Yeah, well, the fans will let you know too. I mean, they beat Syracuse week one. I don't know how good Syracuse is, but it was a win, right? They covered the spread even. They went out there, did what they needed to, 45-26. They dismantled some sack of potatoes last week in East Tennessee State. I don't even know who the hell that is. 72-17. I'm not really impressed. Like, a good team should go out and do that to a middle school team. I mean, Nebraska, Minnesota, those teams did that. So, so far so good for Tennessee, right? 2-0 going into this one. I think the big topic is Joey Aguilar, right? This guy, I actually like this guy. Anybody watches this show the past couple years knows I'm not a big Nico guy. And I don't think anybody's rooting for Nico anymore, to be honest with you, in college football. But I like the Joey Aguilar kid, man. He can stand in the pocket. He's got a big arm. He's played well. He's got over 500 yards on the year, Christian. 5 touchdowns. I know you can just discredit the competition so far, but he's looked good so far. What's the running back? Is it Star Thomas? I think that's his name. He looks like he's the lead back over there. Chris Brazil, he played last year. He looks like their wide receiver one as well. Defensively, this is where I have the big question with Tennessee. Last year, we were both relatively high on Tennessee. They lost a ton to the NFL off that defense. Their defense was legitimately top 15 last season. Is it Arion Carter? That kid looks the part. He looks really good. And one thing I have noticed about Tennessee, and the little that I have watched them in their 2 games, they do get to the quarterback. They have 8 sacks on the year, and I think this is a big advantage here, and something I'll be definitely paying attention to, Christian, against Georgia, is can they get to the quarterback here for Georgia? And I'm drawing a blank on his name right now, your boy over there. But, the O-line play of Georgia last year was super sus at times. I thought, you guys had a lot of talent on the line, but you guys struggled to run the football last year, protect Carson Beck. So it'll be interesting here to see if Tennessee can create some pressure here and get to the quarterback. Tell me about Georgia, though. You'll let me know. Why am I drawing a blank on your quarterback? We talk about him all the time.
Gunner the Goonie Stockton. Over
Jeez.
There. Yeah. No, Chris, you bring up a lot of good points. And on the other side, as a Georgia fan, when you go into the first game of the year against Marshall and you whip the dog shit out of Marshall, you feel real good. You think, okay, Bobo's had to listen all offseason to all the criticisms and things like that. And then you go into last week against Austin P University, right? Some who gives a shit school out in, was it Kentucky, Tennessee, somewhere like that. I know they're a pretty small school out in that area. And they struggled with them. If I'm not mistaken, it was 14-3 or something like that at halftime, Georgia was. Now, if you're a Georgia fan, you could blame the weather delays that are, wreaking havoc across all of football this year. But I don't think it was that. I think Georgia at times this year kind of got back to what last year was about, and they just struggled to complete drives. They struggled to move the football. And I know Mike Bobo gets a lot of hate from a lot of Georgia fans, and trust me, Chris, you've known me for a while now. I have been adamant that I really wish we would go and get Todd Monken's brother, Jeff Monken, and run the triple option sometimes more than have Mike Bobo on that sidelines. But in all seriousness, I'm not going to put all the blame on Mike Bobo for the offensive lack of inspiration where Georgia only put up 28 points against Austin P. And I'm going to come on here and I'm going to say I don't even think it was about the fact that Georgia didn't want to show anything. I think Georgia tried to throw the football down the field at times against Austin P. I just think some of the concepts weren't there. Some of the throws Gunner probably wish he had back. Some of the separation, like receivers were either running the routes too deep or too shallow. Just some things were off, and they didn't look real crisp and precise. Turnovers, there was a couple fumbles. Like Nate Frazier had a fumble on the opening drive, kind of killed some momentum there. That's another big thing. Nate Frazier in this running back room. Nate Frazier, if I told you, Chris, hasn't even looked like the best running back for Georgia. That would be Chauncey Bowens this year. And then they got another kid, Phillips, who's looked pretty good, pretty young. Cash Jones is back. You got London Humphreys. Zachariah Branch, if you ever watched this kid, you're going to get a chance to see him. He looks, when he gets the ball in his hands, he looks fast. Georgia's been missing that for a while, that Arian Smith, Jermaine Burton type role there for him. They need somebody like that. Zachariah Branch can provide that for Georgia. On the defensive side of the ball here, one thing that I want to kind of talk about is Georgia's looked pretty good. I don't really have a whole lot of complaints, with the defensive side of the ball. The thing with Georgia is they reload a lot. Obviously, they rotate guys pretty much throughout the game. Kirby makes, Kirby, Glenn Schumann, and that staff do a really good job of making things happen on the defensive side of the ball. I'm not as worried about that. So, offensively, we got to talk about this a little bit. What is your thoughts, Chris, about Georgia's offense going in to take on Tennessee?
Yeah, and that's what I wanted to ask you. This honest question is because obviously you're a big Georgia fan and you know quite a bit about him. It's more to me too. It's like my thoughts on Gunnar Stockton. I keep wanting to say Stetson Bennett. That's why I was stumbling there. They remind me a little bit of each other in a way, right? They both can take off and run. So far from what I've seen, he has struggled to throw the football. I'm not saying that he can't, but it's looked tough at times. I don't want to say Georgia's sitting there saving stuff too. I don't think though. Look, this is my thing with Gunnar Stockton. We all know that he's not going to throw the ball like Carson Beck did for 400 yards, right? His skill set is making plays with his legs, getting that. Like I would use him as like a Riley Leonard type, right? He's not as big as Riley Leonard, but that 4th and 3 or 3rd and 3, zone read type of play. He can do that. My question to you is, with this offense. Is Gunnar Stockton so far into 2 games? Has he impressed you? Or are you more happy with him than you were Beck? I know you've harped on Beck in the past when he was there. We know, like I just mentioned, he could throw the football. But what's your thoughts there? And what about that Georgia O line, man? I don't think enough people are talking about that. Last year it was a weak point, man. I mean, Notre Dame really exploited that in that playoff game.
Yeah, I mean they're still figuring it out up front too. I mean that's definitely part of it. As far as Gunnar Stockton, I think he just needs the experience of getting in there. I mean, he played against Notre Dame, so we got a chance to kind of see that. He made some throws. You're like, okay, wow, this kid can play. He's got a live arm. It's just putting it all together. There's certain times where you see him and it's him and the receivers seem either like one of them's off and maybe, again, he's thinking, okay, they're going to be 5 yards further up the field than what they are, or, he just oversells the ball a little bit there. So definitely, and I'll be honest, definitely probably not as good of a thrower of the football as Carson Beck. The one area that he has that Georgia's been kind of utilizing that I think should give them a chance against anybody they play is his ability to run the football. Against Austin Peay in that opening drive, if you go back and watch, there was a breakdown there where he was pretty much getting ready to get sacked, had a guy running wide open up the middle of the field, would have been a touchdown. But he had a guy pretty much right in his lap, broke a sack, and ended up scrambling for like an 8-yard gain instead of a sack. So he does provide some different things there where he can take off and kind of have a rushing touchdown or 2 in a game to kind of offset, like you said, in a Riley Leonard way to make some things happen. Chris, one thing I want to touch on here about Tennessee before we kind of give our predictions here. They played Syracuse early on, first game of the year, neutral site game. There was times where Tennessee was able to drive the ball down the field and score on them, though. So I know they're going to tell us, well, you look at what we did against the Eastern Tennessee School for the Blind last week. But, do you think on the opposite side, Tennessee's defense could be more suspect for this matchup?
Yeah, I think this is what it comes down to in this game, honestly. The spread on this game, by the way, is 3. I mean, Georgia's only favored by 3 here. And I like Tennessee's defense. I actually think they're still pretty legit. I do. I know they lost pieces, but it looks like they've done a decent enough job reloading there. To me, it's more with Tennessee, dude. Do you know they haven't thrown a passing touchdown against Georgia since 2021, since COVID? Yes. Like I said, and I like Aguilar, and I do believe this game is going to be pretty damn close. I'll actually get into my score prediction. I like Tennessee in this game to keep this close. I do. And I know we probably sound like we're a bunch of Georgia homers over here, but honestly, Tennessee, I just haven't seen enough of them. The Syracuse game, they did what they needed to do. I thought they were the better team. That game was close for a little bit. But we're going to find out, right? We don't have a lot of data. This is week 3 now. We don't have a lot of data to go off of. Here's my problem, though, and the reason why I'm picking Georgia here, Christian. And I got to stick with the script here. Tennessee hasn't beaten UGA since 2016, man. It has been a long time. And this stat just blows my mind. They've only beaten Georgia 4 times this century. So that's a crazy stat, dude. I'm not trying to harp on Tennessee here, but I like UGA in this one. I do think it's going to be a lower scoring game. Like you mentioned Georgia's defense. I do think they're really good this year again. It's Kirby Smart, man. And I do believe Tennessee has a good enough defense to compete in the SEC. But give me UGA here 24, Tennessee 17.
Yeah, Chris, I give you another stat I read somewhere today. Tennessee hasn't scored more than 17 points against Georgia since 2016. So I think that changes here. And but I don't think it's enough. Give me Georgia 31, Tennessee 24.